How I took a stand after my parents missed my milestone. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. Ms. Maya Alvarez, will your family please stand to sponsor you? The judge said, smiling. The courtroom was packed, black suits, polished shoes, proud parents squeezing into wooden benches like it was graduation all over again. I stood at the podium in my borrowed blazer, palms sweating against my oath card, and stared at the 3 seats I had taped little paper, reserved signs onto. Empty. I blinked hard, like my eyes were buffering. Maybe they were in the hallway. Maybe they were stuck at security. Maybe Mom was fixing her lipstick in the bathroom the way she always did before photos. The judge waited, still smiling, and I felt every head swivel behind me. No footsteps. No whisper of, "We're here." I'm sorry, I managed, voice too loud in the quiet room. They should be here. The bailiff cleared his throat. Someone in the back coughed. The judge's smile softened into something like pity, and I hated myself for noticing it. I had worked 7 years for that moment. Night shifts at a diner through undergrad, $96,000 in loans through law school, and a bar exam that left me chewing through my own nerves. My parents had hyped today like it was their victory lap. Mom had texted a heart emoji at 6:03 a.m. Dad had promised, front row. We'll wave like idiots. I had even practiced the oath in my bathroom mirror so my voice wouldn't shake. Now the clerk raised a camera for the ceremonial photo, and I stood there sponsored by thin air. I wondered, for one humiliating second, if I should just run out. Priya was in the second row. She half stood on instinct, then froze, eyes wide, because she knew those seats weren't for her. When she caught my gaze, she shook her head like she could erase the scene by refusing it. After the oath, she squeezed my hand so hard my ring finger went numb. "We'll take the picture anyway," she whispered, voice fierce. I nodded, smiling for the camera like my chest wasn't caving in. Then my phone lit up with a message that changed everything. Growing up, I learned early that my parents loved milestones the way they loved holiday cards, for how they looked. Mom, Diane, could make a living room look like a magazine spread 10 minutes before guests arrived, but she couldn't keep a promise if it required inconvenience. Dad, Paul, was the smoother one, the peacemaker, the guy who could talk his way out of a speeding ticket and then act surprised that anyone was upset. "Let's not make it a thing," was his favorite sentence. And then there was my brother Jordan. Jordan was 4 years younger, and somehow the axis the whole house spun around. If Jordan forgot his homework, Mom marched it to school like it was a rescue mission. If Jordan got suspended for a misunderstanding, Dad bought him a milkshake and said, "He's sensitive." If Jordan needed new shoes, Mom found the perfect brand. If I needed a ride, I was told to figure it out because I was so capable. I became the easy one, the reliable one, the one who didn't need all that attention. When I got into law school, Mom threw a party, balloons, sheet cake, a speech about our family's values. The day of my first finals, she forgot to call back for 3 days. When I made law review, she posted it online before she congratulated me. When I graduated, she insisted on a perfect photo wall, but spent most of the ceremony texting Jordan because he felt anxious. So when the bar swearing in came, I tried not to get hopeful. I told myself it was just paperwork. Except they pushed the hope on me. Mom asked what color she should wear for the pictures. Dad asked if there would be a photographer. They practiced my last name like it was their line in a play. A week before, Mom grabbed my face in both hands and said, "We are not missing this. Not for anything." Dad nodded so hard his glasses slid down his nose. "This time, we show up," he promised, like he was making a vow to the universe. Jordan even texted, "Proud of you," which was so rare I screenshot it. I wanted to believe them. God, I wanted to believe them. The night before the ceremony, Mom said something that didn't fit. The night before, Mom called while I was steaming my suit. "Quick question," she said, voice overly bright. "What time does the sponsor part happen? The judge asks your name, you stand, you smile, you pretend you didn't make me cry for years." I joked, trying to keep it light. Mom laughed too loud. Right. I just want to make sure we're not late." Dad jumped on the extension. Yes, they still used an actual landline. "We're leaving early," he said. I even printed the parking map. "I'm taking the avoid construction route." I pictured him at their kitchen table, highlighter in hand, performing competence. It almost made me soft. Then Mom added, casually, if Jordan calls, don't answer. He's stressed. I paused with the steamer hissing. About what? Nothing, she snapped, too fast. Just, tomorrow is about you. Okay. That should have warmed me. Instead it landed like a stone. At 9:47 p.m. Jordan texted me. You awake? I didn't reply. I didn't want drama the night before my milestone. I wanted sleep. I wanted one morning where my family wasn't a moving emergency. At 10:06, Mom texted, alarm set. Front row. Love you. At 10:09, Dad texted, proud. See you in the morning. Priya texted a gif of fireworks, and I'm wearing mascara. Don't make me cry. I checked the weather twice and packed my bag. Tissues, a spare pen, and my oath card sleeve. I laid my oath card on the counter next to my ID, double-checking like I was the one who might forget. I set 3 alarms. I ironed my blouse twice. I even taped those ridiculous reserved signs to cardstock so they wouldn't look cheap. At midnight, I practiced the oath again, whispering it into my pillow like a secret. I will support the Constitution. I will faithfully discharge. I crawled into bed, stared at the ceiling, and tried to breathe through the tightness in my ribs. I told myself, over and over, that tomorrow was just 1 hour in a courthouse and it couldn't break me. Still, I kept listening for my phone to buzz with one more message from Mom. Something steady, something normal. At 7:12 a.m., Dad's last text arrived, and I swallowed hard. Priya drove because my hands were shaking too much to trust myself with a steering wheel. Maybe they hit traffic, she offered as we passed the courthouse steps. They live 15 minutes away, I said, staring at the giant stone building like it could swallow me whole. Inside, we cleared security. The line moved slowly, belts off, laptops out, the metal detector chirping at someone's keys. I kept checking my phone, expecting the buzz of Mom's "We're here." Nothing. We found the courtroom early. The air smelled like old paper and floor polish. People were taking photos in the hallway, parents straightening collars, spouses fixing ties. I taped my reserved signs down again because they'd curled at the corners. I called Mom. Straight to voicemail. Hey, it's me. I whispered, because even in crisis I didn't want to be dramatic. We're here. Where are you? Then Dad. Straight to voicemail. The clerk began lining us up alphabetically. Everyone's chatter had that shiny, excited edge, like a wedding lobby. A guy behind me said, my mom cried the whole drive. A woman in front of me squeezed her dad's arm and said, you're really here. I tried to hold my face in a neutral shape. When my name was called, I walked to the front on legs that felt borrowed. The judge asked for sponsors. Silence. The empty seats burned in my peripheral vision. I made it through the oath anyway. My voice didn't crack, which felt like winning and losing at the same time. Afterward, a woman next to me, maybe 60, hair in a perfect bun, tilted her head kindly. Honey, where are your parents? I smiled like a polite stranger. Running late. I lied. Outside, the February wind knifed through my suit. Priya handed me the paper certificate and said, we can still celebrate. Screw them. I laughed, and it came out wrong. In my car, I finally looked at the notifications I'd ignored during the ceremony. 5 missed calls from an unknown number and 1 voicemail. When I finally checked my voicemail, a stranger was asking for me. The voicemail was calm, professional, and completely surreal. Hi, may I speak with Maya Alvarez? This is Denise from Rivergate Bank. We're trying to confirm your employment before today's signing. Please call me back as soon as possible. I stared at the screen like it was written in another language. Signing. Priya repeated. What signing? My throat tightened. I didn't sign anything. I called the number back, hands slick with sweat. A woman answered on the second ring. Rivergate Bank, loan processing. I got a voicemail, I said. Why are you calling me? There was a pause, the sound of typing. Ms. Alvarez, you were scheduled at 9:30 a.m. to finalize your personal loan. Are you still coming? My vision tunneled. I didn't apply for a loan. Another pause, smaller now. I have an application here with your information. Address, social, date of birth. Priya mouthed, oh my God. Who gave you that? I demanded. I can't disclose that, ma'am, she said quickly. But we do need your verification. If you're not attending, we'll have to note the file. I hung up without meaning to. My phone immediately lit up, Mom calling. I answered on the first ring. Where were you? Mom exhaled like I was the problem. Maya, don't start. Today was chaotic. Chaotic? I laughed once sharp. You missed my swearing in. You promised. Dad's voice slid in the background. Sweetheart, lower your voice. I stood there alone, I said. The judge asked for you. People asked where you were. Mom's tone turned icy. It was a courthouse ceremony. You're acting like it was the Met Gala. Priya grabbed the phone from my hand and snapped. Your daughter needed you. This isn't normal. Mom ignored her. We had an emergency with Jordan. That's all you need to know. What emergency? I demanded. Dad finally spoke directly. He was in a situation. We handled it. Stop making this about you. My chest hurt. It was about me. For once. Mom sighed theatrically. You always do this. Your tone is unbelievable. Priya forwarded me a screenshot, and my stomach dropped instantly. Priya had screenshotted Mom's Instagram story from that morning. It was only up for a few minutes before she deleted it. One of those oops posts she pretended never happened. The photo was blurry, taken at chest level, like Mom didn't realize the camera was on. But I recognized her manicure, and the marble counter, and the little acrylic sign that said, in crisp black letters, Rivergate Bank, Loan Center. Time-stamped 9:18 a.m. My ceremony started at 9 o'clock. So the Jordan emergency happened at the loan center? Priya said carefully. My face went hot. They lied. Or they're hiding something. Priya corrected. I went back through my texts. Mom had sent, alarm set, at 10:06 p.m. Dad had sent, see you in the morning, at 10:09. Then nothing until Mom's call after the voicemail. If they were rushing to save Jordan, why were they at a bank? My phone buzzed again, Dad this time. I didn't answer. Instead, I opened my email and searched Rivergate. Nothing. I opened my banking app. Normal. Then I remembered something my financial aid counselor had drilled into us in law school. If you suspect fraud, check your credit. I pulled up my free credit monitoring app, the one I'd signed up for after a data breach at my old job, and watched it load. A red banner appeared across the top. New activity. Hard inquiry. Rivergate Bank. February 14th, 9:02 a.m. My hands went numb. No, I whispered. No, no, no. Priya leaned over my shoulder. That's today. Hard inquiries weren't casual. Someone didn't just accidentally apply for a loan under your name. They used your social. They answered identity questions. They clicked boxes that said, I agree. I called Mom again, fury vibrating through my bones. Straight to voicemail. I called Dad. Voicemail. What do I do? I asked Priya, and I hated that my voice sounded small. First, you don't panic, she said, even as her eyes flashed. Second, you verify everything. Third, you protect yourself. That same day, a hard inquiry hit my credit report from Rivergate Bank. That afternoon, Priya sat at my tiny kitchen table with her laptop open like we were about to solve a murder. Okay, she said. Step 1, credit report. Step 2, breathe. I pulled my free report from all 3 bureaus, hands shaking so badly I mistyped my zip code twice. When it finally loaded, I scrolled past my student loans, my one lonely credit card, my on-time payments. Then I saw it. Rivergate Bank, personal loan, opened February 14th, $18,500. My breath left my body like someone had punched it out. There's no way, I said, even though it was right there in black and white. Priya snapped a photo of the screen. That's not a typo. That's a whole account. I clicked into the details. APR, 14. 9%. First payment due, March 15th. Monthly, $432. 16. The mailing address was my parents' house, not my apartment. Their neat suburban place with the porch they pressure washed every spring. Why would they put it there? Priya whispered. Because it was convenient. Because it was safe. Because they didn't think I'd fight them. I called the bank again, this time calmer, rehearsing the words like a script. I need to report fraudulent activity. A different employee put me on hold, then came back with a syrupy voice. Ms. Alvarez, we have documentation with your e-signature. Did you perhaps authorize someone to sign on your behalf? No, I said. I was in court being sworn in as an attorney at 9 a.m. Silence. Then, we'll need you to come in with identification and file a dispute. And I want a copy of every document. I added, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. Every page. Every IP address. Every timestamp. After I hung up, Dad finally texted. Stop. You're overreacting. Mom followed. We did what we had to. Don't embarrass us. I stared at those two messages, the casual cruelty of them, and felt a new fear bloom. What if this showed up in a character and fitness review? What if my first weeks as a lawyer were spent proving I wasn't lying? This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't forgetfulness. This was entitlement. When I pulled my free credit report, one new account wasn't mine. I drove to my parents' house that night without calling first, headlights cutting through the quiet suburb like a searchlight. Their porch light was on, warm and inviting like a lie. Through the window, I could see the family photos, Jordan's soccer trophies, Mom's perfectly framed happy moments, my law school graduation picture tucked half behind a plant like an afterthought. Mom opened the door before I even knocked, like she'd been waiting. "Maya," she said sharply, eyes flicking to Priya behind me. "Why is she here?" "Because you don't get to rewrite reality alone," Priya said. Dad appeared in the hallway, hands up. "Let's not do this tonight." "Oh, we're doing it," I said, and my voice didn't shake. "You opened a loan in my name." Mom's face hardened. "Lower your voice. Answer me." Dad tried a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "It's temporary. We were going to tell you." "Tell me what?" I demanded. "That you stole my identity on the morning you were supposed to watch me get sworn in?" Mom's chin lifted. "We did it for family." "For Jordan," I said, and watched Dad flinch. Mom's eyes flashed. "Don't say his name like that." "Where is he?" "He's sleeping," Dad said. "He's had a hard day." I laughed, one ugly sound. So did I. Mom moved closer, voice low and furious. "Jordan made a mistake. A big one. And if you love this family, you would help instead of performing." "Performing?" I echoed. "My milestone was real. My name on that loan is real." Dad held out an envelope like a peace offering. "We brought copies. We thought you'd calm down when you saw." I snatched it and pulled out a thick packet of papers. The loan amount, the interest rate, the monthly payment, $432. 16, printed like a threat. And there it was on page 6. My signature. Except it wasn't quite mine. The M looked wrong. The last name had a tiny wobble, like someone had practiced it on a sticky note first. The loan agreement included my signature, spelled wrong in my own handwriting. I didn't scream. That was the strangest part. I stood in my childhood hallway, reading my own forged signature, and felt a coldness settle over me like a coat. "Who did this?" I asked. Mom crossed her arms. "Don't be dramatic. Jordan needed help." Dad rubbed his forehead. "We were going to make the payments. We just needed the loan approved quickly." "Approved quickly," I repeated. "So you used my clean credit and my social." Mom's mouth tightened. "You have student loans anyway. What's one more payment?" Priya made a sound like she'd swallowed glass. "Diane, that's fraud." Mom snapped. "Don't lecture me in my house." I looked at Dad. "Why didn't you ask me?" He shrugged helplessly. "Because you would have said no." There it was. The whole truth in one sentence. I gathered the papers, slid them into the envelope, and walked out without another word. Mom called after me. "Don't you dare ruin your brother over money." Over money. Like my name was a spare tool in a drawer. In my car, I finally let myself cry. 1 minute of ugly sobs, then silence. My cheeks felt raw, but the anger underneath was oddly clarifying, like a light turning on in a room I'd been stumbling through for years. Priya drove us back to my apartment and said, "We're going to do this the right way. Document. Report. Protect." Back home, I typed an email with my hands still trembling. Subject: immediate correction required. I listed 3 demands. A written confession that I did not authorize the loan. Full disclosure of where the money went. Agreement to meet within 48 hours with Priya present, or I would proceed with fraud reporting and a credit freeze. I attached screenshots, Mom's bank story timestamp, the hard inquiry alert, the loan account details, the forged signature comparison. Then I hit send. I sat on my couch, staring at the sent message like it was a grenade I'd just rolled across a floor. At 12:07 a.m., Mom replied, "You're selfish. We're counting on you." I sent one calm email with 3 demands, and they answered at midnight. The next morning, my parents showed up at my apartment like it was their right. Mom had a bakery box in her hands, my favorite cinnamon rolls, the kind she only bought when she wanted something. Dad carried a garment bag like he was arriving to fix my life with a suit. "Can we come in?" Dad asked, voice soft. "No," I said, standing in the doorway. Mom's eyes darted to my neighbor's doors. Don't do this out here. Then tell the truth, I said. In writing, like I asked. Dad's smile cracked. Maya, you're new to the profession. Don't start your career by making enemies of your own family. Priya, inside my apartment, called out. That's a threat, Paul. Mom thrust the bakery box forward. We brought breakfast. We just want to talk. We already talked, I said. You stole my identity. Mom's eyes filled instantly, tears on cue. Jordan could have gone to jail, Maya. Jail? What kind of sister would let that happen? The kind whose parents skipped her swearing in to commit fraud, I replied. Dad stepped closer, lowering his voice. Your mother didn't sleep. She's terrified. If this gets out, people will talk. I don't care what people say, I said. Mom's tears dried like someone flipped a switch. You'll care when you can't get a mortgage. Or when the bar asks questions. Or when Jordan. The building's elevator dinged behind them, and Jordan stepped out, hoodie up, eyes bloodshot. He smelled like stale beer in panic. He looked at me like I'd betrayed him. You always had to be the star, he muttered. Dad tried to laugh it off. He's exhausted. Let's not interrogate him. I stared at Jordan's hands. His knuckles were scraped, like he'd hit something harder than his ego. Why did you need $18,000? I asked. Jordan shrugged. Ask Mom. Tell me, I said. Mom hissed, not here. Jordan's mouth curled into a smile that made my skin crawl. You think this is about you standing in a courtroom? He said. You think that's the real story? Then Jordan laughed softly and said, You really don't know, do you? I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table with the loan packet spread out like a crime scene and made a timeline. 9 a.m. My swearing in began. 9:02. Rivergate ran a hard inquiry on my credit. 9:18. Mom accidentally posted from the bank loan center. 9:30. Rivergate expected me to show up and sign. My parents didn't miss my milestone. They chose an appointment that required my identity over watching me become who I'd worked to be. At 7:58 a.m., right before the judge walked in, I'd sent Mom a photo of the reserved seats. She left it on read. That tiny scene stamp felt like a slap. Priya watched me highlight dates, circle numbers, and screenshot everything twice. You're not crazy, she kept saying. You're not imagining this. By noon, I'd frozen my credit with all 3 bureaus, changed every password I could think of, and set a fraud alert. It felt surreal, like I was preparing for someone else's disaster. My hands kept hovering over my wallet like someone might steal it through the screen. My parents finally agreed to meet when I wrote, I will file a police report today. We chose a diner off the highway because it was public, bright, and had cameras. Priya sat in the booth beside me like a witness in court, hands folded, jaw tight. I ordered water because I couldn't swallow anything solid. Mom arrived first, hair perfect, lipstick fresh. Dad followed, eyes darting around like he expected someone to arrest him. They slid into the booth and acted like we were meeting about brunch plans. Let's keep this calm, Dad said. Truth first, I answered. Then consequences. Mom's smile twitched. You're being cruel. I pulled out my phone and hit record, placing it face down on the table. The waitress refilled our waters and glanced at the tension like she'd seen this kind of family meal 1,000 times. My heart hammered anyway. Start with where the money went, I said. Dad swallowed, reached into his coat, and slowly brought out a thick envelope. Dad slid an envelope across the table, and Mom wouldn't meet my eyes. Inside the envelope were receipts and printouts, like they'd tried to turn fraud into something tidy. A cashier's check for $12,000 made out to Miller's bail bonds. A payment receipt for $4,600 labeled restitution deposit. A towing invoice for $1,120. And a handwritten note from Dad. We will cover the monthly payments. Please don't escalate. My hands shook so badly the paper rustled. Bail bonds. I whispered. What did Jordan do? Mom's jaw clenched. He made a mistake. A mistake that needs bail and restitution? Priya shot back. That's not a parking ticket. Dad leaned in, voice low. There was an incident. Jordan panicked. Someone got hurt. We needed to handle it before it became public. My ears rang. Someone got hurt. Dad nodded once, barely. He hit a cyclist. Not, he swallowed, not fatally. The family wanted it handled quietly. Mom snapped. Because the internet destroys people. You know that. I stared at them, disgust rising like bile. So you bought silence with my name. Dad spread his hands. Your credit is clean. Mine isn't. The bank wouldn't approve us in time. Mom finally looked at me, and the coldness in her gaze startled me. You were going to be sworn in either way. Don't act like you needed us to stand up and clap. I laughed, but it came out wet. I needed parents, not a cover-up team. Mom's nostrils flared. We were protecting this family. If people knew Jordan was arrested, it would destroy him. And if this loan defaults, I said, tapping the APR line, it destroys me. It could affect my license. Dad's voice hardened. Then don't let it default. Help us and we'll fix it. That sentence, so casual, so entitled, was the moment I stopped hoping they'd understand. I opened my laptop and slid it across the table. Rivergate sent me the e-signed documents, I said. Want to tell me who checked the box that says applicant personally appeared? Dad stared at the screen. Mom's hand clenched around her coffee cup. I tapped the audio file from the bank voicemail and hit play. The notary's voice filled the booth. Ms. Alvarez, please confirm you are signing of your own free will. When I played the recorded call, Dad's face went completely blank. Dad didn't deny it. He didn't even pretend. He just exhaled and said, "We were desperate." Mom jumped in immediately, voice sharp. "Don't you dare judge us. You don't have kids." Priya's laugh was humorless. Fraud isn't parenting. I kept my voice steady because I could feel myself shaking apart inside. Here's what's going to happen, I said. I'm disputing the loan. I'm filing an identity theft report. And I'm notifying the bar if I have to. Dad's eyes widened. Maya, don't. Don't what? I snapped. Protect my future? Mom leaned forward, nails digging into the table. If you do this, you will destroy Jordan. I didn't create this, I said. You did. I slid a printed sheet toward them, my boundary list, typed and signed like a contract. No contact except by email. No new accounts in my name, ever. Full written admission to the bank within 24 hours. Repayment plan for any money you took, in writing. Therapy if you want a relationship with me. Dad's mouth opened like he wanted to negotiate. I didn't give him the chance. I walked out with Priya beside me, legs buzzing like live wires. That night, Mom posted a vague Facebook status about ungrateful children and family loyalty. Her friends flooded the comments with heart emojis and Bible verses. Jordan texted me, "Hope you feel good about yourself." I blocked his number. Then Mom's. Then Dad's. Right after, I opened my email drafts and reread the message I'd sent to bar admissions. It felt like confessing a crime I hadn't committed. I kept thinking, if my own parents could do this, what else didn't I see? For 12 hours, the silence felt like relief. On the second day, Rivergate called again. Ms. Alvarez, your first payment is due in 30 days, the rep said gently, like I'd simply forgotten. I'm disputing it, I told her. It's identity theft. She sighed. Then you should know. The account was opened using an in-person verification. My stomach turned. Someone had walked into that bank pretending to be me. 2 days later, a certified letter arrived with my full name in bold. The certified letter was a demand notice, polite language wrapped around a threat. Pay, or we escalate. I made coffee I couldn't taste and did the most grown-up thing I'd ever done. I asked for help. Not from my parents. From systems that didn't care about my tone. I filed an identity theft report online and printed the confirmation number. I submitted disputes to all 3 credit bureaus. I emailed Rivergate's fraud department with attachments labeled like exhibits. Exhibit A, hard inquiry alert. Exhibit B, Instagram story timestamp. Exhibit C, forged signature comparison. I also emailed the bar admissions office, explaining that an account had been opened fraudulently in my name and I was taking immediate action. My finger hovered over send for a full minute, because part of me still wanted to protect my parents from consequences like it was my job. Then I sent it anyway. Therapy started 2 weeks later. My therapist asked, "When did you learn love required you to be convenient?" I couldn't answer without crying. Priya became my anchor. She brought over takeout, made me laugh on purpose, and reminded me that boundaries weren't cruelty, they were oxygen. At first, my parents tried to break the no-contact rule. Mom left voicemails sobbing, then voicemails furious. Dad sent emails that sounded like negotiation offers. What if we make the first 3 payments? What if we co-sign something else? Like I was a bank, not a daughter. Jordan posted pictures at a bar with the caption, "Freedom," as if he'd won something. Months passed. The bank investigation moved at the speed of bureaucracy. My credit score dipped before it rose. My stomach stopped flipping every time my phone buzzed. I didn't get a movie magic apology. I got distance. I got peace. I got to frame my oath certificate without wondering who would ruin it next. On my birthday, an email appeared from Mom with no subject line. On my birthday, Mom sent a single sentence that finally sounded like truth. It read, "I'm sorry I chose your brother over you again." No excuses. No but. No lecture about my attitude. Just one sentence that felt like someone finally setting down a weapon. I stared at it until my eyes burned, because grief is weird like that. It can show up as relief and rage in the same breath. Part of me wanted to reply with 1,000 paragraphs. Another part wanted to print it out and tape it to the wall as proof I hadn't imagined the pattern. Priya came over that night with a cheap bottle of champagne and 2 plastic flutes. We toasted in my living room, under the framed photo from the courthouse, the one where Priya stood beside me because my parents didn't. "Do you want to reply?" she asked. I thought about all the versions of me that had tried to earn a normal family. The teenager who stayed quiet so Mom wouldn't snap. The college kid who sent upbeat updates hoping for a call back. The law student who kept inviting them anyway, because maybe this time they'd show. Then I thought about the timeline I'd built. The fraud alert. The forged signature. The way Mom had said, "You were going to be sworn in either way," like love was optional when the outcome was guaranteed. I opened a new email draft and wrote 3 lines. "I accept your apology. My boundaries remain. If you want a relationship, it has to be honest and safe." Then I saved it as a draft and went to the window. On my coffee table, the oath certificate sat beside the loan packet, 2 documents with my name on them, 1 earned and 1 stolen. Seeing them together made my decision simple. The city lights looked the same as they always had, but I felt different, like the part of me that kept shrinking had finally stopped. If you're reading this and your family keeps asking you to pay for their chaos, here's what I learned. Document everything, protect your credit, loop in the right institutions early, and let them be mad if it keeps you whole. Because sometimes the stand you take isn't loud. It's written, recorded, and final.